What if America's future held a Trump-led era with no foreseeable election in sight? This is a hypothetical scenario, a flight of fancy into uncharted political territory. Imagine, if you will, a world where Donald Trump, once again at the helm of the United States, decides to take a step that would send ripples through the very fabric of American democracy. In this alternate reality, Trump, ever the maverick, chooses to follow in the footsteps of global leaders who have pardoned themselves of any potential legal issues. Drawing parallels with figures such as Russia's Vladimir Putin and other strongmen who have manipulated their country's legal framework to suit their personal ambitions, Trump could potentially self-pardon any outstanding legal matters. This is not just about Trump, but about the implications such an action would have on the American legal and political system. Our democratic structure is built on checks and balances, on the idea that no one, not even the president, is above the law. The self-pardon, however, would challenge this very principle, raising questions about the abuse of executive power and the erosion of legal accountability. Furthermore, the self-pardon would set a dangerous precedent for future leaders. What's to stop the next president, or the one after that, from using the same tactic to evade legal scrutiny? The self-pardon would effectively create a loophole in our democratic system, one that could be exploited by those with less than honorable intentions. This hypothetical scenario is not meant to scare you, but to make you think. It's about understanding the potential ramifications of unchecked executive power, about recognizing the need for accountability at the highest levels of government. It's about the future of our democracy and the values we hold dear. Imagine an America where the president pardons himself, setting a precedent that could rock the very foundations of our democracy. This is the world we could be stepping into if we're not careful. A world where the rule of law takes a back seat to political ambition. What if Capitol Hill stopped being the symbol of American democracy and started resembling the Kremlin? Let's try to imagine such a scenario. The heart of American democracy, Capitol Hill, has long been a symbol of freedom and equality. It has stood as a beacon of hope for many across the globe, representing the ideals of a democratic society. But in our hypothetical future, what if this symbol of democracy started to transform into something quite different? One could imagine the transformation starting subtly. Perhaps a few changes in the rules of order, perhaps a few alterations in the procedures of Congress. But soon these changes could become more profound, more far-reaching. The halls of Capitol Hill might start to echo with the sound of a single voice, rather than the chorus of diverse opinions that we are accustomed to. The transformation could go deeper. The balance of power, the checks and balances that have been the bedrock of the American political system, could slowly erode. The separation of powers, the cornerstone of American democracy, could start to blur. The executive branch could begin to consolidate power, diminishing the roles of the legislative and judicial branches. Under this new regime, the American political landscape could change dramatically. Policies could be enacted without much debate or scrutiny. Dissenting voices could be silenced. The vibrant discourse that is the lifeblood of a democratic society could be replaced by a top-down approach to governance. In the end, the transformation of Capitol Hill could have profound consequences for American society. It could alter the very fabric of the nation, changing the principles upon which the United States was founded. It could reshape the country's identity and its place in the world. In this hypothetical future, the echoes of American democracy in Capitol Hill could be replaced by the heavy silence of an autocratic regime. We can only hope that such a future remains purely hypothetical. Could the FBI, one of America's proud institutions, become a personal secret service for a president? Now let's pause for a moment and think about that. It sounds like the stuff of dystopian fiction, doesn't it? But let's delve deeper into this hypothetical scenario. Let's imagine a world where the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Domestic Intelligence and Security Service of the United States, is turned into a tool for political advantage. In this scenario, the FBI is no longer an impartial defender of law and order. Instead, it becomes a weapon wielded against political opponents, a means to maintain power. This is a world where the FBI is used not to protect the people, but to protect the power of one individual. Where investigations are opened not based on evidence or suspicion of wrongdoing, but on political affiliation or opposition. Where the truth is not sought, but manufactured to fit a narrative. Does this sound familiar? It might, because this is a tactic that has been employed by authoritarian regimes around the world. From Russia to North Korea, we've seen intelligence agencies used as tools of political oppression rather than defenders of their nation's values. In such a world, the FBI loses its integrity. It is no longer seen as a trusted institution, but rather a tool of oppression. Its agents are no longer respected law enforcement officers, but feared political operatives. The rule of law is replaced by the rule of one man. And what's the cost of this transformation? The erosion of trust in our institutions, the undermining of our democracy, and the loss of our fundamental freedoms. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? This is a hypothetical scenario, of course, but it's one that should make us all pause and reflect on the importance of our democratic institutions and the role they play in maintaining our freedom and our way of life. Imagine a world where the FBI isn't a defender of American values, but a tool for political oppression. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? And it's one we should all be vigilant against. What if America, a founding member of NATO, decided to leave the alliance? Let's delve into this hypothetical scenario. NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, has been a cornerstone of global security since its inception in 1949. It was born out of a need for collective defense, a promise that an attack against one member is an attack against all. Now imagine if the United States, a key player in this alliance, were to withdraw. The immediate implications would be a significant shift in the global security landscape. Without the United States, NATO would lose not only a military superpower, but also a significant contributor to its budget. This could potentially weaken the alliance's overall defense capabilities and affect its ability to respond to international crises. Furthermore, a US exit would likely embolden adversaries who might see this as an opportunity to exert their influence in regions previously under the protective umbrella of NATO. This could lead to increased instability and conflicts around the globe. On the international relations front, America's departure from NATO could strain its ties with other members of the alliance. The United States has long-standing relationships with these countries, built on shared values and mutual defense interests. A NATO exit could be seen as a betrayal, potentially damaging these relationships and impacting America's standing in the world. Moreover, the exit could isolate the United States on a global stage. As a part of NATO, America has a say in shaping global policies and strategies. Outside the alliance, its influence could wane, and it might find it challenging to rally international support when needed. Lastly, the impact on America's own security cannot be overlooked. Alone, the United States would bear the full burden of its defense, potentially stretching its resources thin and making it more vulnerable to threats. In conclusion, an America outside NATO could drastically reshape the global balance of power. The ripple effects of such a decision would reverberate across international relations, global security, and America's standing in the world, with potentially profound consequences. What would happen if America's relationship with Europe crumbled? This question might sound like the premise of a dystopian novel, but let's delve into the realm of the hypothetical to explore it. Imagine, for a moment, that the bonds between the United States and Europe begin to fray, weakened by a series of political decisions that leave our European allies feeling increasingly distanced and disregarded. This isn't just about a diplomatic cold shoulder, it's about the potential fallout of a deteriorating relationship that has been nurtured over several decades. Economically, the impact could be profound. Europe is one of America's largest trading partners, a relationship that supports millions of jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. From the automotive industry to pharmaceuticals, from technology to tourism, the transatlantic economic partnership is a driving force in both economies. Should that relationship sour, the ripple effects could be felt in the pockets of every American and European citizen. Politically, the consequences could be just as significant. The United States and Europe share a long history of diplomatic cooperation, working together on issues ranging from climate change to international security. A rift between these traditional allies could leave both sides vulnerable, reducing their collective influence on the global stage and creating opportunities for other powers to fill the vacuum. Socially, the implications could be far-reaching. The United States and Europe share more than just economic and political ties. They share cultural and societal values, from democracy and human rights to freedom of speech and the rule of law. A deterioration in relations could drive a wedge between these shared values, leading to a shift in global norms and standards. So what would a world look like where the United States and Europe are at odds? It's a world where economic stability is threatened, political alliances are shaken, and shared societal values are undermined. An isolated America might find itself in a world that's considerably less friendly. What if corruption became the new norm in American politics? Imagine a world where integrity is a forgotten virtue, where honesty is a relic of the past. This is a world where corruption sits comfortably on the throne, dictating the ebb and flow of society. In this hypothetical reign, corruption could infiltrate every layer of our society, impacting the economy, social justice, and the country's global reputation. The economy, the lifeblood of any nation, would be at the mercy of unscrupulous leaders. They could manipulate the market, hoard wealth, and create a chasm between the rich and the poor that's wider than ever. An economy built on corrupt practices rather than fair competition and innovation is a house of cards, ready to collapse at the slightest gust of wind. And what about social justice? In a land where corruption is king, justice becomes a commodity, available only to those who can afford it. The scales of justice would be tipped, not in favor of truth, but in favor of those with the deepest pockets. The very concept of equality before the law would be a cruel mockery, a far-fetched dream in the minds of the less privileged. Then there's the matter of our global reputation. The United States has long been a beacon of democracy, a nation that champions human rights, freedom, and fairness. But in this dark scenario, that beacon would dim, replaced by the grim shadow of corruption. Our standing in the global community would plummet, and with it, our ability to lead and influence. The world would watch on as the beacon of hope morphs into a symbol of greed and deceit. In this world, corruption wouldn't just reign, it would thrive, casting a dark cloud over the land of the free and the home of the brave. The very essence of the American dream, the belief that anyone, regardless of their background, can achieve success through hard work and determination, would be at risk. In a world where corruption reigns, the American dream could become an American nightmare. Could America ever become a Fourth Reich, where the population is under total control and human rights are a thing of the past? Well, in this hypothetical scenario, the nation's very fabric would undergo a drastic transformation. Imagine a society where freedom of speech, once the cornerstone of American democracy, is stifled. The air would be thick with fear, every word measured, every conversation a potential minefield. And what about civil liberties? In this reality, they would be curtailed, if not completely eradicated. The right to privacy, the right to protest, the right to a fair trial, all these could disappear, replaced by an omnipresent surveillance state, a chilling echo of a past we once vowed never to repeat. In the face of such drastic change, the society would splinter. Trust, the bedrock of any community, would erode, neighbors spying on neighbors, friends betraying friends, the seeds of suspicion sown deep into the heart of the society. And let's not forget about human rights, the right to life, liberty, and security of person, the right not to be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. These are more than just legal principles. They are the pillars of our humanity, the foundation of our dignity. In this alternate America, these rights could be trampled underfoot. The vulnerable and marginalized would suffer the most, their voices silenced, their plight ignored. The nation would be divided, the chasm between the powerful and the powerless widening with each passing day. But remember, this is a hypothetical scenario, a cautionary tale born out of our collective fear and anxiety. It is a warning, a call to action, a reminder of the importance of vigilance, of the need to safeguard our freedoms, our rights, and our democracy. In this dystopian future, the land of the free could become the land of the oppressed. But it doesn't have to be. The power to shape our future lies in our hands. So let's use it wisely. So, what does this hypothetical future mean for America? This thought experiment paints a vivid picture of America under a potential re-election of Donald Trump, who, in this scenario, remains in power until the end of his life. We've journeyed through the transformation of Capitol Hill to a Kremlin-like system, the redefinition of the FBI into a personal secret service, and an abrupt exit from NATO. We've seen the potential strain on relationships with Europe and a reign where corruption runs rampant. The hypothetical story concludes with America morphing into a Fourth Reich, a place where absolute control is exercised over its citizens and human rights are disregarded. This is a fictional narrative, an imaginative leap into what could be, based on certain assumptions. But it serves as a stark reminder of the power of our votes and the direction they can steer our nation. In this imagined future, the decision is yours. Is this the America you want?